Imagine you're standing at the bottom of a massive snow-covered mountain. You're trying to push a giant boulder up the incline. You're straining, you're sweating, and every inch feels like a battle against gravity itself. This is what the first few years of saving feels like. But what if I told you there's a specific point on that mountain where the boulder doesn't just stop being heavy, it actually starts moving on its own? That point is $100,000. Most people think reaching $100,000 is just a nice round number, or maybe they think it's only 10% of the way to being a millionaire. They're wrong. Mathematically, it's the most important tipping point you will ever hit. And I spend way too much time thinking about why some people stay stuck in the 9-to-5 grind forever, while others seem to glide into wealth. If you want to understand when your money starts working harder than you do, before we talk about the magic of six figures, we have to talk about the broke zone. This is where 90% of people live. You get your paycheck, and within 15 seconds your brain has already spent it on rent, that car payment you probably can't afford, and groceries that cost twice what they did 3 years ago. In this phase, building wealth feels like continental drift. It's painfully slow. If you're saving $500 a month, reaching $100,000 takes nearly 8 years if you're earning a 7% return. Here's the part that most people don't realize. In those first 8 years, almost half of that money came directly from your own sweat and blood, your contributions. Compound interest is still warming up on the bench. It hasn't even entered the game yet. This is why most people quit. They look at their account after 3 years of doing everything right, skipping the expensive lattes, driving the old Honda, brown bagging lunch, and they see maybe $20,000 or $30,000. They think, is this it? All that sacrifice for this? They feel like they're pouring water into a bucket with holes in the bottom. But they don't see the foundation they're building. They don't realize that the first $100,000 is the prison break from the paycheck to paycheck cycle, the mathematical acceleration. Now let's look at what happens once you cross that $100,000 line. This is where the math becomes absolutely ridiculous in your favor. Remember how it took nearly 8 years to get to $100K? To get to the next $100,000, to hit $200K, it only takes about 5 more years. Think about that. You didn't work harder. You didn't get a massive raise. You just kept doing the same thing, but the timeline shrank by 3 years. Why? Because now you have a 6-figure employee working for you 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, with no sick days. At an 8% return, $100,000 generates $8,000 a year in growth. That's nearly $700 a month. That money is now covering your groceries or a huge chunk of your rent without you lifting a finger. By the time you hit $400,000, your money is generating $28,000 a year. At this point, the returns are doing more of the heavy lifting than you are. You've reached what I call the snowball velocity. The boulder is at the top of the hill, and now it's rolling down. This isn't a get-rich-quick scheme. It's just the unstoppable force of compound interest that has been creating millionaires for generations. But the change isn't just in your bank account. It's in your brain. When you have zero savings, every financial decision is filtered through fear and scarcity. You stay in a toxic job because you're one missed paycheck away from disaster. You're constantly playing defense. But $100,000 gives you something much more valuable than a nice car or a fancy watch. It gives you walking away money. When you have $100K, you sleep differently at night. You walk into your office with more confidence because you know that if your boss decides to be a nightmare today, you have the financial runway to survive for 2, 3, maybe 4 years without a paycheck. This confidence creates a positive feedback loop. Because you aren't desperate, you negotiate better. You're more willing to take calculated risks on a new career path or a business idea because you aren't worried about basic survival. You stop sweating the $4 coffee because you know you have the big things, your housing, your debt, your investments, under control. You've moved from financial survival to wealth building. Here's the danger zone. I see this all the time. People hit that first $100,000. They feel that psychological shift, and then they immediately go out and buy a $70,000 truck with a $1,200 monthly payment. They think they've made it. So they treat themselves to a lifestyle that they can technically afford, but that effectively kills their momentum. This is called lifestyle inflation. It's when your expenses magically rise to meet your income. If you hit 100K and then double your spending, you're back to being a financial sleepwalker. You're just doing it in a nicer car. True wealth builders understand that the goal isn't to look rich, it's to be rich. They keep their lifestyle inflation immunity strong. They understand that every dollar they spend on a depreciating asset like a new car is a dollar that isn't working toward their freedom. So how do you actually get to that first 100K without losing your mind? It isn't about being a stock market genius. It's about three simple things. Kill high-interest debt. You cannot fill a bucket with a giant hole in the bottom. Credit card debt at 22% interest is financial cancer. Pay it off before you do anything else. Automate your success. Willpower is a muscle that gets tired. Don't rely on yourself to save whatever is left at the end of the month. Set up automatic transfers to your investment accounts the day you get paid. Boring is better. Don't chase the next hot cryptocurrency or individual stock. Invest in low-cost index funds that track the total stock market. It's boring, it's slow, and it works every single time. The first $100,000 is a grind. It's a battle of discipline and patience in a world that wants you to spend everything you have today. But once you hit that milestone, the game changes forever. You stop being a prisoner to your mortgage or your boss, and you start being the architect of your own life. If you're at zero today, don't focus on the $100,000. Focus on the first $1,000, then the first $10,000. Small, consistent actions compound, just like your investments. You can either look wealthy or be wealthy, but for most people, you can't do both. Choose your future self over a shiny truck today, and in 10 years, you'll be laughing at how simple it was, while everyone else is still wondering where their money disappeared to.